Hey everyone, Mr. Devil here, Kenny Danico, 3-time Stanley Cup champion of the New Jersey Devils, and you're listening to the Uncle Puckers New Jersey Devils podcast with Chris, Dan, Bobby, and Tony, the Uncle Puckers. Let's go Devils!
They don't deserve the goal horn sounder.
No,
not yet. They have to earn it. And last night they didn't earn it, not at all. Last night was a bad game. Game 3 against who do we play?
Panthers.
That's right. Florida Panthers. That's right.
Yeah,
we'll get into that.
Two games with a 4-3 final in a row. We also have a 4-3 final loss.
Yeah, to Arizona.
Arizona, yeah.
4-3 win.
And a 4-3. Was that 4-3?
The Red Wings was a 4-3 win. That's true.
Okay. There's a
I'm getting tired of that.
Yeah, there's a pattern here.
Yes, it is.
So I don't know what it means, but
in honor of Luke Hughes. Yeah,
well, there you go. Yeah, we got a lot to get to. A lot from that one game. A lot of shit to talk about. But we're the Uncle Puckers, Dan, Bobby, Chris. We'll I guess get into it. Just some early, just quick thoughts, Bob. A quick little take on the game. Go ahead.
Right. I'm going to start with the positive, right? That's the type of guy I am. And
I think we should definitely have our silver lining segment.
Yeah, but I'll start with it, and then we can end on a bad note. The third period really gave me hope. That is exactly what I wanted to see. I do not understand the mentality of an athlete where they can't turn that on earlier. I don't get it. They have proven to me once again what they can do when they really do get going. I also believe, for what it's worth, that I don't give a shit if the other team is all of a sudden falling apart and just took a penalty to make it 4-3. I don't believe in not calling a penalty because you just called a penalty. That was a blatant trip.
So just for Florida had just taken a tripping call. A penalty had just been over, and Dawson Mercer gets tripped coming into the offensive zone. Blatant trip right in front of the line judge, and the line judge doesn't put his arm up. Yeah. And the idea is, well, I just gave you guys a power play, and I'm not just going to go and give you another one.
My ass. That's not how it works. That was a penalty. Now, I'm not saying we were destined to score on that if we got it, but the way that game was going, I would have put money on that fourth goal. But it didn't happen. We get over it. So my best takeaway from that is what they were able to do in that period. I just really hope they come out with more urgency. I don't understand when I was watching the first two periods. I can't figure it out. And there's a couple players here, I'm sure you guys will get to it, that are just looking terrible. Not like, all right, I had a bad game, but like, this is game 3. That's a lot of hockey now. And it's pretty terrible.
Along with 7 preseason games.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So again, I'm not going to hang my head. I feel like that third period was something this team needed. They got to be reminded of what they're capable of doing. But it ain't going to mean shit if they can't kill penalties and they take stupid penalties and they're not controlling the play 5-on-5 and they're letting the first goals go in all the time. So,
Dan.
Well, yeah, very undisciplined game. Put them behind the 8 ball in a giant hole. Yeah, we know this team can score. And they come back, 3 goals, very exciting. But you can't make this many mistakes against a quality team and expect to come out the victor with any regularity. So obviously not surprised that, the hope they gave you, the fans, a little bit in the third period was all for naught. I kind of, understand that you just can't play a game that way. I was also maybe a little bit more concerned about the goaltending. Now, Brendan Smith was absolutely brutal. So, you take away his mistakes and it's, not as evident. But still, the first goal, it's a deflection, but it's a deflection through 5-hole. And
I don't blame Vanacek on that goal.
I don't think anybody really did.
Well, no, there was whoever it was, like Reinhardt. That was Reinhardt's goal, right? And they let him just stand in the middle of he had 2 defenders around him. If I remember correctly, it was, I think, Smith and Luke on that one, but I'm not 100% sure. But it was a hell of a tip, but you can't let him just stand there and wait for the fucking tip.
Absolutely, and. But I didn't really, I don't know. I felt like Vanacek could have turned in a better performance than he did. And I was a little bummed with that. I've seen him, do a much better job holding the team together when the defense wasn't there in the past. And I thought his first outing for the Devils was much better than this one. This one looked very uneven to me. So That's kind of a bummer. And really, we all expected. We were calling, hey, it's a good game to put Miller in, where we weren't too overly psyched about Smith's performance. And boy, I really wish we had not played Smith. He was brutal in that game.
Yeah, he was atrocious. Absolutely. I can't figure it out. I mean, you go and you have a good game one, it was a little bit sloppy, but you get the dub. Okay. You can look at that and say, beginning of the season, it's kind of how you want to start. They put some, pucks in the net. They, made a couple of mistakes, but that'll all be easily cleaned up. Kind of have the same formula in game two, and then they give up the late goal and they lose in the shootout. So you know that you have a lot of work to do. All anybody has been talking about in the beginning, over the weekend was better first start. They better start. They have to have a better first period, this and that. Like, this was drilled into their heads for 48 hours and plus, and then they go out. I mean, this was 45 minutes of really fucking brutal hockey, man. I mean, really bad hockey. Hockey that looked like the Devils from 2021. That's how bad they looked. And we didn't have anybody on that team, and we looked that bad. Now with this loaded lineup, let's get into some of these players that we're talking about here. But man, I'm going to start with Nico Hischier. Yeah. Where the fuck has Nico Hischier been? What is going on with him? I did see a couple of things last night, not from him, but from other players that I actually liked. There are a few dudes I thought had really good games last night. I thought Jesper Bratt played fucking amazing. I thought Andre Palat had a great goal. Night. Yep. And Andre Palat did what we wanted somebody to do: stand up for our guys when he took a penalty on it. Yep. But again,
even Meyer had that penalty on Kachuk. And, it came at a bad time. It hurt. But, I also understood what he was doing. He's standing up to him physically.
Right. But the tripping penalties are the ones that got him benched for the third period.
That's true.
But Nico, to me, is like, it's your team, dude. This is like, I'm willing to say, okay, Timo Meyer's having a struggle on this whole thing right now. But I can also, the Timo Meyer's new to this team. I mean, he still is new to this team. He's playing a completely different role that he had to play in San Jose. I'm willing to just give him a little bit of leeway to figure it out. Okay, maybe it's going to take 10 games or so until Timo Meyer figures it out. But this is fucking Nico Hischier's team, man. The Swiss Miss needs to wake the hell up because it's bad. Bob, what did you think? Who was your glaring player that you wanted to punch in the face last night?
Definitely Timo Meyer at this point. I don't recommend it because I'm sure he can whoop my ass. But
fuck yeah.
I don't understand what I'm seeing with him, and I don't. He's really having a hard time finding a line mates that fit. Like, I don't know who is the ultimate center for him. Like, I want to know. I want to look back and say who centered him in San Jose, and what was the difference between what our centers can offer, because he really hasn't been quite what he was there. And I didn't expect it last year, end of the season, got hurt, playoffs, that sort of thing. But, the full training camp and coming out strong, everybody just kind of, thought that would be an extreme positive for him. Now, part of it is because Nico's has a rough start too, but I guess I'm just saying I'm starting to question whether or not that's ever going to be the chemistry that we want.
It looks like maybe it's time to think about breaking that up somehow.
Yeah.
But where? How?
Well, I mean, the lines were friggin', complete in a complete blender last night on that third period. I mean, we had now. Can somebody tell me, because I thought that Brendan Smith had an absolutely abysmal game once again. He's been in all 3 games and he hasn't played well. But why was John Marino benched for that third period?
I don't know. I can't say it was one of his better games, but I didn't really see with a glaring error that would have led to that. Was there something said there? What's going on? I mean, that's not good, because Marino is our steadiest defenseman, most experienced, most defensively responsible. So, this is very concerning, to be honest.
The defensive pairings, I'm still going to go back to what I wanted from the beginning, which was like the Siegenthaler, Hamilton, Hughes with Marino. And then, I don't want Ball with Smith. I don't want Smith, I guess, in there, especially now. No. I just think Miller deserves a shot. I don't understand. He wasn't noticeable in camp, right? But he also wasn't like horrible from
And,
what I know.
He was having trouble in training camp with just picking up on the system. Well, Brendan Smith's been there for over a year, and he seems to be having trouble picking up on the system. Colin Miller's a veteran. Put him in. And, if he makes – look, even if he makes a couple of mistakes, is it going to be worse than what you're getting from Brendan Smith?
No,
so,
and put them in and, call it the third pairing and, shelter their minutes a little bit. That's fine. But, like, Smith went all year last year as the eighth defenseman maybe. Got in towards the end of the year, got in the playoffs, and it's kind of been the same thing. It's just
we've always said it.
It doesn't really work.
We'll take the over on if Smith is in the lineup. Like even when it was just Dan and I doing the show a year ago, the two of us saying over under on Brendan Smith's penalties tonight. It was just that ongoing joke. And last night it hurt us. If
you're going to have that kind of liability, then I think it's even a quicker turnaround before we see Nemec up here.
Well, that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, if this is what, Smith is supposed to be the safer choice. And he was far from the safest defenseman out there. He was the biggest liability. So give me a more dynamic biggest liability who maybe you just got to grow into being less of a liability in Nemec before we keep going with Smith.
And at least he'll Miller give you offense.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Maybe Miller's supposed to be that safer option, and I don't mind putting him in here because we're looking for some steadiness and stop the bleeding. Maybe now's not the best time. It's not my ideal situation to work Nemec in this way, but I'm just saying, like this, it's time definitely for Smith to sit. And when you look at your options, boy, if it was between him and Nemec, I would still sit him.
I'd go with Nemec.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. At this point, I probably would too, and I was big on getting him a little more seasoning.
I still think that's so premature if we don't even get a chance to see Miller. And Miller was a solid defenseman for Dallas. He didn't come here thinking he was just going to help the young kids and sit on the bench. Like he came here with expectations to be part of a championship team. That defenseman's still in there, but nobody got a chance to see it.
Yeah, he needs.
And
I'm
not saying he's the best. He might not work out either. I'm saying for God's sakes, get him in.
But
something obviously isn't working.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much more you have to see from Brendan Smith. I mean, we saw it all last year, every game he was in, and we saw it these 3 games in a row, which one I put the 100% of the blame on losing that game against the Coyotes on Brendan Smith, on just an untimely, stupid tripping penalty. Last night, he, got beat a couple of times. At first, was it the first or second goal, completely, misplayed the puck and gets beat, and the guy makes a beautiful goal. I mean, Vanacek could have played a little bit better, but I think, the third period, Timo Meier taking that penalty that led to the 4th goal, then that's what pretty much got him benched. That one, now it's 4-0. You have 14, 15 minutes left. It's a long haul. I mean, so much so we couldn't do it. But let's talk a little bit about the last 12 minutes of the game, where there was a lot of, I know this isn't going to stick, but Halle, McLeod, and Holtz, that line was really special last night. I mean, they were flying, and I kind of liked it. And I don't think it's a possibility that line would ever be a starting lineup. I think that's Lindy's just throwing everything out there and hoping that something works. But that was a line that worked.
You saw guys that were skating hard and going to the dirty places to get the work done. Halle with the power play tip on, I believe it was Hughes' shot. Why did he get that? Because he's standing right in front of the net.
Which was a beautiful goal.
Absolutely. It was a beautiful goal. And I think that this team has not shown an effective forecheck except for in places where those kind of guys are doing the work. But some of our other players are just not really producing that. I mean, that's what I was curious most. Like we talked about, okay, we want to get Smith out of the lineup. What other changes do you want to see? And maybe when it comes to forwards, what changes can you make that would hopefully jumpstart this whole team to be doing a little better, especially in the first period, the way they start out so flat?
Well, without the answer being clone, 11 more Jack Hugheses, I will say, I'll answer your question with a question. Bobby, you had said, who's the center for Timo Meier? So let me ask you, who would you put him with? You're not going to put him on the 4th line with Michael McLeod.
No.
But it's Halle, it's Hughes, or it's Hischier. Where would you put, if you're Lindy Ruff, game 4, on the island, where do you put Timo Meyer?
This is not an easy answer because, number one, you could say that the only line that has looked even good, let alone the fact they've looked really good, is the Jack Hughes line the way it is. So you don't want to go ahead breaking that up already because Meyer's not getting his shit going. So it does look like that's where we want him on paper. We want to protect Hischier. That's where but I mean, at some point, does he need the puck fed to him a different way? I just don't know, but I don't see him going down to the third line. He's got to be a top 6 guy. They just got to start to gel. And, just for what it's worth, too, on that Haula, Mercer, Holtz line, that is what you would expect. What I love about that line is you'd expect that from Haula and Mercer when you need spark. The fact that Holtz was part of that and played a damn good role, too, is very important because we're going to hear more and more people. Season's only three games
well,
old.
Mercer wasn't with them when they were scoring the goals.
Oh, I'm sorry, McLeod.
McLeod.
Yeah. Obviously, again, that's not going to be a starting line, but the fact that Holtz was relied upon on something like that, because you're already starting to hear Holtz hasn't scored a goal. He's, it's nothing. It's another failed experiment. And in a situation like this where the team has legitimately started off worse than expectations, Holtz is doing really well in other aspects of the game. And I'm not saying that keeps him up here. I'm just saying most people aren't going to recognize that or recognize the effort that happened last night. And maybe he still doesn't translate, but that looks really good.
He didn't look like the problem last night.
No,
exactly.
He didn't. And I would when game 1 rolled around and we saw the lines and Lindy Ruff was asked about it, and he said, it's a coach's decision to move him down to that third line. We feel like, he's going to be able to grow on playing on either line and blah, blah, blah. But we just like Mercer up there better. Okay. Well, it's been 3 games. I think that Alex Holtz has proven, as far as being, I would say, between Hischier, Mercer, and Holtz, just those 3, Holtz has been the better player out of all 3 over 3 games. I think,
when you have no stats to go off of,
right.
it
and why
shines
not
that way.
Right now? I mean, I want to ask Lindy Ruff, well, why would you not put him up on that line now? Like, the line has done nothing. Hischier and Meyer have been atrocious. This one dude has been sufficient. He's not making huge mistakes. He's not costing you games. He's not putting the team in a bad situation. Alex Holtz, and he's getting a couple of shots on. And I think his goals will come. But my thing is now, like, why would you not put him? You saw actual production with him up on that first line. Right. Why are we not doing it now?
So just so I'm clear, what do you want for lines then? Because you're making a good point, but I want to.
I would start with Hischier, Meyer, and Holtz.
Okay,
you keep that Bratt, Hughes, Toffoli line. Toffoli is another one I think had a fantastic game last night.
I know. He just
got
to break through.
Really good.
Right. He got robbed a few times by Bobrovsky.
Exactly. But and Bobrovsky played a good game.
He did.
But
it was definitely the difference through the first half of the game, first 2 periods.
Toffoli was working his ass off. So that line I love. You don't touch it. And then, I mean, you can go to the I guess it would be Haula, Palat, Mercer. Try that. Or if you wanted to move Michael McLeod or Haula was over at the wing and McLeod came up to play center at the end of that game. I thought that line was friggin' awesome. But
so
I don't
where's
think
Meyer going? Meyer's going to be with
Meyer would be with Hischier and Holtz.
Hischier and Holtz. Okay.
The only change I would make right now on the first line is move Holtz up. They had chemistry in the preseason. Let's just see. What
I love the idea. I'm just worried that Meyer and Hischier are both kind of in a funk, and keeping them together, does that help that or not? I don't know.
I don't know either. I mean, otherwise, then you have to move Meyer to Halla's line. Maybe you put Palat, Haula,
That's
and
kind
Meyer
of what
together.
I was thinking. Like, Halla's making shit happen. He's kind of dynamic right now. I wonder if Meyer could do something with him.
Okay.
But it leaves a mess everywhere else. That's the problem.
Yeah. Let me ask you, do you hate a Hischier, Holtz, Mercer line?
No, I don't.
Or Hischier, Palat, Mercer, Hischier, Palat, Holtz?
No, I really don't hate any of those combos. I just don't, mess up a good thing. So really we're talking about leaving the first line alone. And I'm trying to break up Hischier and Meyer just in the short term. So, either one of those scenarios you proposed, I think would work. Is one better than the other?
Well, I mean, that's what I'm at. Would you rather see a Holtz, Hischier, Mercer or Holtz, Hischier, Palat?
I kind of like the idea of Holtz playing with Palat because he's got that experienced veteran there to help him out, and that might be a good chemistry thing. But I don't know. I don't know. That's a tough call. I don't feel very strongly one way or the other on that. My instinct says, oh yeah, you know what? Put the kid on the same line with the most experienced guy, which is Palat. So,
what do you think, Bob? Where would you go?
I just have to go, back to what I originally thought as just constructing lines before the team even started playing. And my whole reasoning for having a guy like Mercer on the third line was to kind of spread the energy. So somebody everywhere should be providing something. So even if Mercer stays down that third line for now, you got the Jack Hughes line running fast. You got anytime Mercer's on the ice, even though he's not doing great right now, I just feel like there's a lot of energy around him. And the fourth line's taken care of. The problem is it's still, right, Dan, it's what Dan said. Like, I don't know where to shuffle that kind of Hischier line. I think we just got to give Meier his time to gel with Hischier. There's really no other place to put him short of sliding Jack in there once in a while.
Who can slide in that line and maybe with those two guys as a winger and give them the most opportunity to get out of their funk? I mean, is there one person that you think?
You mean by keeping Hischier and
if we were going to keep Hischier and Meier together, yeah. What anybody else in the wing?
Maybe it's Foley.
I would put Holtz there.
Yeah, maybe it's Foley. Maybe it's
so Foley makes shit happen. Like, it hasn't gone in for him, but he makes crazy stuff.
I'm not
happen.
touching that line.
I know, but I think Jack and Brad can hold their own while we just try to get out of the funk.
But I mean, so maybe you can try Meier up there and move to Foley down and play on the first line. Me personally, I would start by doing if I was Lindy and for some reason, I guess you got a guy who's making $8.8 million a year for the next 8 years. You don't really want to drop him onto that third line, but you have a guy making.
He's playing well.
I mean, I would put Holtz up there at least to start and keep Meier and Hischier together, and maybe not knock too much of their confidence right now, and put Holtz there and see if he can be that little jump start that they need. You keep the first line together. The third line, again, Palat, Hollum, Mercer, I like that. But we also have an issue now with that fourth line because Lazar was benched.
Yeah.
You got Nosek hurt.
Yep.
Bastian was just, he was okay. I thought Bastian actually had a pretty good game. You got Foot's hurt. Like anybody else that can pop into that spot. Yeah. So I guess they have to roll
other
with
than
Lazar
the benching. Still. I've been liking what I see from Lazar in the lineup.
Why was he benched last night?
Couldn't tell you.
I think Lazar and Marino could have just been a victim of circumstance and Lindy trying to basically shorten the bench. I didn't hear anything about their play that from him. Now, maybe I wasn't all over the news today, but maybe he did say something. But I did hear him say about Meier, just, you just basically saying, like, you can't take these penalties. You can't play that way and expect to be on this team. But it could have been just we needed 4 friggin' goals and we had to shorten the bench. And Lazar and, Marino were just a victim of that circumstance because Hamilton and Hughes on the blue line, they were playing. I was going to say,
how exciting is that?
Yeah,
when you need a goal, that was fun looking.
I get that, but how is Smith not sat in favor of
Marino?
In what world does that happen? I don't get it. Marino's even offensively worlds beyond him. So that argument of we need goals right now, maybe that's why you bench Lazar. I mean, he's not necessarily going to bring a lot of goals. That's debatable too. But what is beyond the debate is Marino's offensively a better keep in there than Smith. So I don't know what game there he was watching with that. I'm a little curious why Smith got all the love with that game, even despite all the mistakes. I mean, it didn't make sense.
Yeah, I don't know what Lindy's going to do, but damn well he's not going to keep these lines the way they are right now.
No, I do expect some adjustment next game. I think it'd be crazy to not get some kind of adjustment. I mean, Smith's got to be out of the lineup, I would say.
I don't know if Cap Friendly gets any stats from practice today, but I just refreshed it for the depth chart, and as of today, they have Meier, Hughes, Mercer, Toffoli, Hischier, Brad. I don't know if that was a practice line or what, but they usually try to do that.
They had what for practice?
No, I don't know if so. Cap Friendly generally, when they set up their, their list of players, it's usually their depth chart. It's usually based off of something they've seen, like the last game or a practice or something, so that it doesn't look like they just threw 12 players up there. And for whatever reason, right now they have it as Meyer, Jack, Mercer, Toffoli, Heischer, Bratt.
Meyer, Jack, Mercer.
It could just be a reaction to last night's game, to injuries.
I mean, Lindy, is he the type of dude that now will, say, okay, our two most dynamic guys, we have to split them up now and at least maybe try and spread that wealth around and move Bratt around. And I don't know.
At this point, I think Bratt's the guy you can move anywhere and his production's not going to fall off. I think he's doing Bratt stuff right now and he looks great. I think Toffoli also could probably shift around and not feel the disconnect of that. I think he's just kind of a solid, smart hockey player that would just be like, sure.
Now,
all right.
On that, was Toffoli with Meyer?
On this?
Yeah.
No, he was with Heischer.
No.
Yeah. And Meyer was with who?
Hughes and Mercer.
And Mercer. I kind of like the idea of Toffoli and Mercer and Meyer on the same line. I mean, I know that they're both bigger dudes, but I kind of like that little hefty beef of guys that can shoot and, just get them the puck. Maybe Heischer can just get him that puck and let him shoot it from anywhere. I don't know. I mean, right now, the guys in charge know a hell of a lot more than we do. So, it's going to be really interesting to see.
If they knew so much more, where's their podcast?
That's true. They're just coaching the fucking NHL team.
Yeah, that's all.
So, you guys watch any football this weekend?
Did not.
No?
I did. How'd your Vikings do?
They won a horribly ugly game. And real quick, before I get into that a little bit, I'm really having PTSD about my second favorite sport. Football is my second favorite sport. My other most beloved team, who's supposed to have a really good year and then just starts out really sluggish and shitty. I'm like, it's happening again. It's the Vikings did it in September. The Devils are doing it in October. What the frick? Can I just get a team to start off strong? Nope, they don't want to. They did pull a win out in a very ugly fashion against a really bad Bears team. We almost lost in the fourth quarter, Dan, to a Division II quarterback. Uh-oh. Yeah, so let's just that sink in. A Division II
talking
QB
about
team
losing this game.
Close.
You're hoping they tank the whole season and go for the draft entry.
Yes, which is not something that I am at all wishing for the New Jersey Devils.
No.
But we are a lot more deeper into the NFL season, and it's going strong, guys. And DraftKings Sportsbook is hooking new customers up with an offer that's even stronger. You bet $5 on any game this week to score $200 instantly in bonus bets, and they're not stopping there. All customers can take advantage of a sweetener every game day this October. And it's not just football. You can bet on the Major League Baseball playoffs. You can bet on the NHL. Right now, if I was going to drop a bet, Edmonton given a goal and a half, Nashville. I will take Edmonton. I think they're 0-2. I think they're ready to pop. So I would definitely think they're probably going to win by more than 2. I would throw a few bucks on Edmonton.
That's your hot tip.
That's my hot tip. But I don't gamble a whole lot, so I'm not going to bet that. But you can get in on the game day greatness now by downloading the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. New customers can score $200 instantly in bonus bets when you bet $5 on the NFL. That's code THPN. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available. For problem gambling, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, licensee partner, Golden Nugget, Lake Charles, Louisiana. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. That's 7 days. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/football terms for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gambling resources. Back to hockey.
Yes.
So we got the Islanders Friday night.
Yeah.
Man, you getting a little worried, guys?
I'm not liking what I'm seeing so far. After that stellar preseason, I didn't think we'd start off slow like this and look kind of lost. We're sitting here for the last 20 minutes talking about what line combos does, Lindy need to try to get this team going. That's, not what I expected at this point. Maybe not even necessarily, I didn't expect to win all these games, but to be, at least competitive through the majority of the game, that'd be nice because they have not turned in even a game where they played 50% of the time and maybe even less than a period. I'm trying to think. I don't think they played a solid 20 minutes yet.
Well, I think the best period they played, and it wasn't a solid 20, was definitely the third period last night. They came out on fire, and they got scored on early in that period, and they still fought back.
That's very important.
Yeah, that's huge. And, you talk about, and Spalding talked about it a little bit during the broadcast, just, anything to make them feel good about themselves, feel good about their game, anything positive they can pull from a game that you were down 4-0. And I think coming within an ass hair of tying it can make you feel pretty good. So I'm really hoping that the attitude in that locker room is not, hair on fire, and it should be, man, we got that fucking close. And, next time we're going to definitely play a full 60 and whoop these guys because Florida played a perfect game. I mean, let's just call it what they did. For what Florida does, they played it to a T. That's how you play the Devils. And Bobrovsky was good when he had to be. But they worked their asses off that last 10 minutes, 12 minutes of that third period, man. That was exciting. Like, all of a sudden, it was like, holy shit, these guys are going to do it again. They fell a little short, but at least you can take that.
And it all started because they simply didn't want to get shut out.
Yeah,
they wanted to keep that string going.
It just that first goal, that I think the first one was that Holla tip, right?
That was Holla.
That tip, and it's just, you can see it. Like, it was like, okay, we can, if you see that confidence building, but I'll tell you, there was no point in that game. And a lot of games you watch this where you can feel that momentum really swinging. Like, we're down by 3, but we're going to tie this thing. It wasn't like that last night. Like, the goals were hard to come by. Like, every one of them was working their ass off because it wasn't like the whole, and it was the best 12, 13 minutes they played, but it was not like they maintained that pressure. Florida kept coming. I mean, they were really pushing. They would have, take that puck down, get a couple of good opportunities, and then we were going the other way. I would have liked to have seen them just really step on their throats, but I don't think they're that team. Not yet. But they need to get there. I think the Islanders can be a really bad matchup for them for how they are right now.
This is my concern because I had a problem with that game anyway. They play us tough and it just kind of looked like a loss to me. We got this big break in between. There's no traction right now and things are seeming negative. So if we have to wait 3 days to go into that game, have a tough game, maybe lose, maybe not, who knows? Then there's another 3-day break before you get the Canadians. And right now, I don't know what kind of Canadians team you're going to get. They look like they're fighting for every inch, right? So that's not easy. But then, boom, it's just right into another back-to-back. There's no rhythm right now to the schedule at a time when the Devils could really use some rhythm. So the Islander game does scare me. If it wasn't for that third period, I would definitely say this is one of these situations where it's going to get a little bit worse before it gets better, and the sky's going to be falling. But just really what they did is convincing me going forward that they're going to come out strong against the Islanders. They're going to take the Islanders. But more important than that, do you know what the old boys had to do today? You know why they're going to win?
No.
They had the old bag skate going on at practice today.
They had the what?
The bag skate, buddy.
Bag skate. Dan, do you know
you never watched Miracle?
What he means?
The Miracle on Ice?
I've seen the movie, but I don't remember bag skate.
You don't remember bag skates. So they're just skating blue line to blue line, hard stops, hard to back and forth.
Okay, that's what it's called, bag skate?
Well, it wasn't officially a bag skate, but that was what it was called, certainly back in the day, because it's going to hurt your bag,
So,
dude.
Lindy, back skate.
Bag.
B-A-G.
Yeah.
Okay. So just they ran gassers the whole fucking
basically.
day. Okay.
Yeah. So the goalies, it's so brutal on the goalies. So that's a tough one. When you're a team and you got to do that. I don't know how long it was. Amanda Sines posted it and a bunch of people were commenting. Oh, it was like every other comment on it was, from the Miracle movie. Again, as I kept doing it. But that's pretty tough when you have to do it at this level. Yeah.
They deserve it. They're not playing well. And,
I didn't like the hustle. I did. I mean, it's what there was mistakes made and that cost them, sure. But sometimes those mistakes are made because you're behind the play, and that's why you take these penalties. And you're behind the play because you're not moving your legs.
And you said too, Dan, that they really have not had any sustained forecheck. Like it's
not there.
Yeah, and their transition game is not great right now. There's just their passing isn't. Nothing's clicking right now. It's just.
I know, and I don't think they think this way, but I wonder if there's a little bit of a vibe around the team of. We have all the pieces. This should be going easier, and it's like skipping over the part where, no, this still requires a crazy amount of effort, and it seems like a little too simplistic to call that what's going on. But yet, I kind of feel it's a little bit of what's going on here. Is that
then that's up to the leaders on that team to
exactly, and they need to set the work ethic first. And when you think about the guys who are doing well, it is all because of hustle. It's all there's some guys who will confuse people with God-given talent, but really look behind that. It's not the pretty goals; it's the skating they're doing to get. And I'm thinking about Bratt and Hughes. Of course, nobody's going to play like them.
Right.
But look at the hustle they're bringing. Everybody can hustle to that extent, and I don't see that right now.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Jesper Bratt disappear a lot last year where that hustle wasn't there. So far through 3 games, he's been hustling his ass off. He's been really, really awesome to watch. And I really hope that maybe all that bullshit, like we talked about, the contract and everything, maybe now that's all behind him and he focuses. Plus, he's gotten bigger. He's gotten stronger.
Maybe it really does affect certain people. We take it for granted and say, nah, they're just hockey players. They're athletes. Maybe it really does get in there.
Don't you think your head's a little clearer when you finally know, okay, this is it. I can settle here. I can maybe get married.
Sure.
I can have a family. I'm going to be here for the next decade. I have enough money to take care of everything. Yeah, I mean, worrying about where you're going to be every year.
But I also think you kind of forget that when you're on the ice. Like, there's just so much more happening. Like, your brain's just firing in so many different directions. Yeah. It's not also thinking about the contract. But, I know that it's also unrealistic to think that any team can play to the way they played for 12 minutes for a full 60. You can't. Like, I get it. Like, that much energy, that much exertion. So when I say, why can't they come out like that all the time, I don't literally mean it because, in that there's a situation that builds, right? It's a goal and you're feeling good, but not that good. It was the second goal where they were really like, wow, we've got 8 minutes. We can do this or whatever it was. And then the ice tilts and everything's going in your favor. So I understand. No, you can't play like that for 60 minutes, but why couldn't you have dove into that a little bit quick when it was 2-0?
Yeah, and you can
it doesn't need to be 4-0 before you realize shit. We got to get this done. You can play
like that for a full 60 minutes because that play is a result of hard work, and nobody was working hard. They just came out completely flat. If they came out skating, they would have had a lot more opportunities. They would have the Devils game, like I said, like Florida played a perfect Florida game. Like, you can't let a team come into your building and play their game. You make them play your fucking game.
But there's something that happens in some of these magical games where you're making it close when you probably shouldn't have.
Oh, sure.
And you've got that goalie pulled for 3 minutes and the puck barely goes near it. Where in any other game, as soon as you pull your goalie, it's an empty netter. Like, everything was happening. 4 minutes. Yeah, everything was happening well, which is why I said if we got that penalty call, I honestly wholeheartedly believe we score on that. That's how much momentum we had.
You're 100% right. It's fucking bullshit. Like, your job is to call a penalty, call the game down the middle. And if one team decides that they're going to take 15 tripping minors that game, and then the other team decides they're not going to take any minors in that game, are you only going to call 2, 3, 4 of the 15 just because?
You can't have it both ways.
Commits a penalty, you call it.
You can't say, well, I want to call it again on them and be responsible for them losing the game.
You're not responsible.
You just did it. You might have done it the other way.
But you're not responsible.
I know.
The guy tripping him is fucking responsible.
Exactly. Like, it was just so blatant. And
what do you think of that, Dan?
That's a big problem.
I totally understand. I almost, it makes me aggravated to even point it out, as accurate as that is, because that's so far from what cost them this game. And, like, there have been many games that I felt like the Devils played well enough to win, and then the refs ruined it. They made it difficult for us to gain momentum, or they made a horrible call that ruined what was going on. This, I felt like, was not one of those games. It's because the game was we didn't deserve to be able to just turn the spigot on for 10 minutes and expect to win when we played that poorly all game. So I'm not too surprised. And you don't leave it in the hands of the refs to make one call to stop your comeback.
It was the moment of the game that got to the ref to not put his arm up.
You're absolutely right. Exactly. I'm not arguing the point, and I think that it was a penalty. It was obvious to everybody. I also think that you see this happen a lot. When one team's taking a bunch of penalties, the refs are keeping some kind of what they feel is a absolute balance. It's not about how many penalties a team's taking, and it's about what the overall count is back and forth. And they hate to make the same call over and over again, but sometimes they should. You made a great point, and I do wonder sometimes. I hate starting going down this road with the refs because I think you'd be a fool to not entertain that this is partially true. It's part of it has to do with it's the Devils. The Devils have never really gotten the best, most consistent, fair reffing around the league, and I get that. So, but this is why you can't leave it in their hands.
But I also think that particular penalty was so blatant that there's a lot that you get a penalty called. Maybe it's a hook, maybe whatever, an interference, and it's a ticky tacky bullshit. Could have gone either way play, and let's say that play is the determining factor in the game, and all everybody's going to bitch about was the penalty. I think if that penalty is called last night, they're not going to sit around. Nobody from Florida, if the Devils score on it, are going to be bitching about the penalty that was called. They'll be bitching about the guy that tripped them. We would be like, with Smith. Like, we weren't bitching that Smith got a penalty called on him by the ref. We were bitching that Smith took the fucking penalty. Like, that penalty was so blatant. Like, there was no arguing it. Like, I don't know how the referee, honestly, just by sheer habit, didn't just put his arm up because that one was so blatant. I was shocked.
It's a bad call. But I also see that in that situation a lot, and particularly if it's the Devils. And
no, they definitely keep score. They've done it forever. I get it. But like I said, something like that, it's just that blatant. I think you got to call it.
You guys want some comforting news?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, sure. Last year after three. We actually have more points this year than we did last year after 3 games.
That's
got
true.
Our first win, game 3 had 2 points. Now we got 3, and our next game was the Islanders last year, which we won 4-1. So there you go. There's my score for the Islander game. We're going to win 4-1.
All right, and you're saying we're on the cusp of a 13-game winning streak.
Yep, we got to double that too.
But that 4th Islander game came on the heels of a win.
That's true.
It's true. That's true.
Where we have gone off script here this last game.
Because I'm just being realistic and just factual. That's what happened. It's one thing that was different. But I just think, the Islanders do kind of pose a bit of a problem. Sorokin is Sorokin. And they play a very good defensive system. And like I said, you can't let a team come into your building and play their game. And Florida did that. And we should be going to the Islanders and play our game, and we should just fly all over. We're a better team. So, on paper, however that conversation goes, we should be able to go in there and play our game and pass the hell out of the ball and the puck, and use our transition game, spend a lot of offensive time, pepper Sorokin with 40 shots, get 3 or 4 past them and, hold the Islanders to 2. We should be able to do that. But the way this team's just not gelling right now, I don't know.
Yeah, on paper, this is a fantastic team. We've yet to even, scratch the surface of what it can do. I think it's going to come around. I really am very curious what the moves are that are going to be made. Starting lineup for this next game, because we got to change these openings. So that means you're changing the starting lineup for sure.
You don't like Ken Danico on our opening? Oh, not our opening. You don't want to change.
I don't mean that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That one's just working just fine. No, the openings of the games has been horrible, and you really have to change who's out there to start the game. And we were discussing it. There's so many different ways it can go. I'm very curious to see what happens. We have to do something differently.
Now, did the thought last night pop into anybody's head other than mine that said, I kind of don't want them to win this game. I hope that it ends 4-3. And I'll tell you why it did, because I was like, if we come back and we win this game, then this fucking team is going to make this a habit. And they're going to be like, it doesn't matter if we're down by 3 in the third, because we can just keep coming back. And that's not a recipe for success. I was kind of like, I really hope that they work hard. It's 4-3 now. If they stay here, the game ends. Then they kind of got a bit of a chip on their shoulder. And it's like, you know what? We can do it, but we need to finish this time and go into the Islanders and do that. This is the conversations I have in my own fucking head.
I felt similarly with the previous game. I don't know about you. I felt that way with the previous game. Like, it's almost better that you didn't win that in overtime, because did you deserve to with how few minutes that you played strong? I know what you mean. Of course, I'd rather have the win. But there's no doubt about it. There's bad habits being developed as we speak. And it's maybe if this helps rid that team of those habits right away, would be a better thing in the long run. So I get your point.
And I think this game was different than the Coyote game, because this game we came back. We didn't give it up. We didn't have the deflating moments at the end. We were the ones that were kind of on the high at the end. That we walked out of that game going, "Fuck, man, 5 more minutes and we tie this thing." And that's the mindset you want to have. Yeah. So hopefully it'll carry over, and we go into the Islanders and we beat them. And we're gonna. Anybody have anything else they want to discuss for tonight?
I think it's time. There's no more lessons to be learned. This is enough. That's it. Like, just step on it. Like, and there's get going.
And you know what, fans and management and everybody involved, they're not going to be too patient much longer. You know what I mean? Like, it's 3 games. If they do go on some 4, 5, 6 game losing streak, man, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to have a lot of answering to do. And I would honestly say, if this team ends up where, we don't win the next 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, Lindy Ruff's job will be, even though he just got the extension, he will be on the hot seat. I honestly believe that. So let's hope it never gets there.
It should.
But, Dan's right. The bad habits, we talked about it. Like, you don't want that creeping in. Because as fun as, chasing a playoff spot is to watch, you don't ever want to be there as a team. You want that playoff spot locked up. And right now I'm watching hockey, and there are a lot of teams, and a lot of teams look good. And, we're not looking great. And that's something that's a little worrisome. Will everything settle and the universe will right itself? I get that. It probably will, but it is kind of scary.
I've said this a few times. I don't buy the notion that because the calendar flipped, all of a sudden there's a target on the Devils' back and every team is taking us more serious. I believe that happened midway through last year, and I'll die on that hill. These are professional athletes. That's the way they go. I think the bigger problem just might be this team, as constructed, is not used to not being the chasers. I think it just maybe that's weighing on them a little bit. The expectation instead of just playing their game.
Oh, you mean like they don't know how to be the fucking aggressor? They don't know how to be the big boys on the street.
They know how to be the aggressor when people are talking shit about them.
Right. They're used to getting beat up, and, they come back and they're rocky, and they're not used to being Apollo Creed where you just go out there and smoke people, and they have to get
It's like you guys said, I think it was you mostly, Chris, you were getting nervous, like with too much positive press. You're like, stop talking about my Devils. Like, I just want them to go out there and do good. Now, a lot of players would say they don't listen to kind of that outside media shit. And I'll bet you a lot do. And there's got to be a lot of things that float around your head. And if you hear some, people talking about you, I don't know, maybe just as a whole, the expectations. This is where they got to learn. This is where I think Patrick Ilias kind of said that in between periods. It was kind of like when you are a championship caliber team, you have to kind of learn to deal with that expectation and then go play your game on the ice. And I think right now, maybe they're just kind of mixing the two. And I've never been anywhere near this kind of level of play, so I don't know how the psyche works. But I think they're going to break through, and they're just way too talented.
Even when we won the Cups, right? Even years after we won the Cups, we were never, ever talked about nationally like we were this year. Like this summer, we were never, ever in the, 30 years, 40 years of Devil. How long have they been around? 50 years? So, whatever. For however long they've been here. They've never, even years after winning the Cup, they were not talked about like with this kind of, and they know it. Like, Jack, maybe clutching his stick a little tighter towards the middle of the season. He was 1 point away from 100, and these guys had tons of great things happen last year that they want to live up to too. So that can be a lot of pressure. I think Elias is right. You got to just settle down, play the game. Look at this roster. We all know what this team can do. They know what they can do. It's just a matter of, letting them figure it out. I just hope they don't figure it out in December.
Yeah. I think we're poised for a quick turnaround. Too much talent. They're going to get moving.
We'll come back. I think Thursday at some point. We're going to do Devil You Know, a couple of other things. We'll talk more in depth about the Islander game. We'll get into that. And I guess, Dan, anything else you want to throw in for tonight?
No, that about covers that game. It was kind of just a real disappointment to watch because
quite forgettable.
This team is so talented that you just, with a little bit more effort, you're in every single game, and you're fighting for that win. I mean, look how close they came with barely playing half a period, really, when it comes down to it. So
yeah,
it's just going to be so exciting when they can really get it going. It gets frustrating already. 3 games, like, where is it, guys? Put that effort out. I think it'll come. It's only 3 games, so like you guys said, no reason to panic. But boy, am I ready for the team that we saw in the preseason, the team that we know that it can be, to come out and play.
It's coming. It is coming. And like I said, we will be back on Thursday. We'll probably have a little bit more detail on certain lineups and, how this team might look on Friday. So we'll talk about that, and that'll be fun. So again, wherever you're checking us out, check out the YouTube channel as well. Maybe, smash a like on that, subscribe. That would be fantastic. 5-star rating wherever you get your podcast. Subscription would be awesome. Does go a very long way to help us promote the podcast, and we appreciate the fuck out of you guys. So thank you very much. For Bobby, Dan, I'm Chris. We're the Uncle Puckers. See you when we see you.
Puck us out.
Later.
It's over, Johnny. It's over!
Chris, what are you watching the games on?